The more we move forward, the more sometimes people want to push us back. It's a shame that that's the case with the President of the United States. Donald Trump wants the Washington Commanders to change their name back to the previous name, the Washington Redskins. Now, that name is offensive to some people. And quite frankly, look, the way I look at it is if it's offensive to some, that's enough for me. It doesn't have to be a majority thing or what have you. I personally, it's not my battle to fight, but I think that there's a reason that name changed. They moved forward. But coming up this week on Breaking Through Glass Ceilings with Uncomfortable Conversations, brought to you by 6 Heart Media Productions, we're going to talk about how he might not have the authority that he thinks he does. Coming up. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this episode of Breaking Through Glass Ceilings with Uncomfortable Conversations. I'm your host, Brian H. Waterts. This show is brought to you by 6 Heart Media Productions. Folks, I mentioned in the opener, Donald Trump wants to change the Washington Commanders name back. Now, I talked about this a few weeks ago, right? We know the team's name was changed during the pandemic. Quite frankly, when let's be real, everybody woke up and Nike decided to pull their content, pull their merchandise off of the website, and now you're messing with the money. And that's when we saw them become the Washington football team. Now, here's the story. I was working for a local union, and I was working with CBS and Fox Sports, freelance utility worker. My first season, the last game was their final game as the Washington Redskins when they took on the New York Football Giants, right? And this is the time when Saquon was there. Rest in peace, Dwayne Haskins was there. I go back to next year, 2020, everything's changed. And I'm like, I started talking to people. I said, man, how long did that take? They had to change all the layouts. There was not one single Washington Redskin item, logo in that stadium. And it was a lot of work. So they named the Washington football team until they could decide on a name. Then they became the Washington Commanders. And like I said before, this is a new era. This is a new era in football, right? You have a team led by Jaden Daniels, who's the rookie of the year, took them all the way to the NFC Championship. In my football life watching time, because I was around when they won their last Super Bowl, but in the time where I'm old enough to understand football, they had never gotten that far. And it felt like this is a new era. Then this dude wants to change the name, and it's like, bruh, come on now. Shout out to a good friend of mine, Peter Rosenberg. He did a video on like why he's a lifelong fan and why we do need to move forward. But I did my research. Because here's the thing. Donald Trump threatened to block a deal for a new stadium if they don't change the name back. He don't have the power to do it. Now, sure, he can use his influence. But first of all, there's a new stadium in place. It's almost all but done. And that's all up to the local government and local authorities. Now, can he influence them? Obviously. But as far as having the physical power and this threat he made, he can't do it. And I think it's silly we're having this conversation. I think there's other things to worry about. He also mentioned the Cleveland Indians, who are now the Cleveland Guardians, said they should change their name back. He brought up the fact that they were amongst the first, like the original baseball teams. And I'll admit, it takes a while to get used to saying these names, right? For Washington, I remember hearing, and maybe because I'm closer in like being in Baltimore, I see down in DC, I hear a lot of people, there was complaints. Then I heard some people who are Native American descent or Native Americans said they didn't have a problem. So I saw the argument both ways. I never heard much about the Cleveland Indians, and then people bring up the Atlanta Braves, the Kansas City Chiefs. But they changed the name to the Cleveland Guardians. I was like, man, that takes getting used to. And I was in Cleveland last year. I actually still saw like some, not in the stadium because I didn't go to the baseball stadium, but I did see like, there's places around town where they still got Cleveland Indians stuff. The color waves are the exact same, where Washington changed the colors a little bit. But I just think there's things like, if we move forward, there's no need to keep having these conversations, these battles, because like what benefit does that have? So it's very interesting that the president is worried about these things happening in sports when there's bigger fish to fry. And especially, it's very uncomfortable that you can't move forward. Like I said, we have a new name for the team. And with this team, we know exactly what they want. We know this is the new direction. It's a new era. Even in Cleveland, it's a new era. So I think that's a crazy thing that we are having this discussion. Yeah, I know we got to talk about it. The Coldplay concert, right? So I guess I didn't care to memorize the CEO's name. I'm not going to lie to you. But yeah, Andy Bryon, the CEO of Astronomer, it's an AI company, was caught, which everybody's seen the video, caught with the HR Chief Kristin Cabot. And both of them she was put on leave, he was put on leave, he resigned. The craziest thing about this, when you watch the video, I'm sitting there, the wrestler fan in me is like, if you don't sell it, this isn't even a story. But the amount of memes, I wonder, what was y'all favorite meme that came from this? No matter what industry you're in, if you're a wrestling fan, you saw wrestling memes. If you were in the music, you saw other musical memes, baseball memes. It was just crazy. And it's one of those things where, and dude raised the conversation. Is the kiss cam, is it really needed? But what was so funny was you saw different kiss cams where people were reenacting this. And one thing about the internet we learn is we're going to make a joke out of everything. Now, unfortunately, there were lives affected. His wife scrubbed all evidence of him off her social media. And he's worth over billions of dollars. Not millions, folks, billions. So everybody said, oh, she's going to be paid. But what was also interesting was the fact that there were people who worked for him said, he got what he deserved. Say it was difficult to work with, and they loved seeing all this blow up in their face. Look, it happens, Sometimes you can't treat people bad and expect. Karma doesn't always collect the same way. Karma doesn't always come when somebody treating you bad. Karma can just be something that just blows up in your face. You treat people bad for years in this avenue, and then boom, you have your worst embarrassing moment for the entire world to see. Millions and millions of people have seen that meme and re-memed it. Well, it's not a meme, it's real life, but they've made a meme out of this. So I do hope they can get their mental health together. Maybe them two, maybe they'll be together and live happily ever after. Who knows? But yeah, this was very, very interesting. I irritated a lot of people yesterday on Twitter, but I had probably more people who agree with me, because I had a question. Why are people so concerned that the WNBA players want more money? I will never understand it. I will never get it. I will never grasp the fact that there are men, mostly men, who are upset anytime a woman asks for more money. Excuse her for wanting to take care of herself. Excuse her for wanting to be better for herself. So we know that the WNBA All-Star game was this past weekend. Incredible game. It was fun to watch the whole weekend. They had CBA negotiations where the players and the league just not on the same page. They said they want to be paid what they're owed. it was reported that the players are making 9 to 10% of the revenue. And so there was always this thing that they wanted to be paid the same as the NBA players. And the reason is because what people would do was they would take LeBron James' salary, and at times it might be Diana Taurasi, Sue Bird. They would take some of the best players in WNBA and they would compare the salaries. And they don't even compare. And then they would say, see, they need to be paid the same thing. The women never said they wanted to be paid the same thing. They are fully aware that the WNBA does not generate the same amount of money as the NBA. However, they wanted to be paid their fair share. 9 to 10%, no, not right. Not right at all. Now, people may say, they're not even making a profit yet. So how can they make more money? That's stupid. There's a lot of companies out there that's not making profits. And guess what? They're still paying their workers a fair salary. People still get annual raises even when the company may have taken a loss. That's just the fact. Remember, the NBA, UFC wasn't profitable. That doesn't mean you stop paying the athletes. You know what I mean? So I think that people don't understand that. One, the players are the product. And if you don't take care of the product, it's not going to grow. They want things such as healthcare. It's really unfortunate that there are only a handful of teams who have facilities that are catering to women, that are women friendly, right? Skylar Diggins said when she was looking for a team to sign with, she looked at the facilities and she picked Seattle. She's a mother, so she needs to be able to have certain facilities. Women need certain things. There are things that in Unrivaled that they are giving women and treating women because honestly, as a man, as much as I support women, there needs to be women in the room because there are certain things I'm just not going to think about. Me and Queen PR talk about stuff all the time, just in general. Like we might be having conversations about what it's like being in a corporate setting or different things. And I'm like, oh, you know what? I ain't thinking about that. I didn't think about that. Case in point, when I worked at Johns Hopkins, me and one of my coworkers were talking. We were talking about language, about the Human Genome Project. And what people don't realize about the Human Genome Project is they are people who are paid to make it up. And so let me get this right. They're paid dollars. Most of the time it's 35, college age white men they look at their genome and then they use that to decide how certain diseases are, right? So then they open the door where they're going to be looking at making it wider because that's quite frankly, everybody's not represented, right? So when you do certain types of research, you invite people to take part in this research. A lot of times with Black people, especially Baltimore, we think of, no, you're going to try to steal our cells like Henrietta Lacks. So I had to break that down and say, okay, we have to word this properly. That's the difference because my awareness, because I grew up here, I was the only Black male on the team and in this conversation where there are people who weren't, they're not going to be aware of this conversation. So therefore, there's always things when I talk about with women's sports, you know what I mean, that I'm not going to think about. That's why even in wrestling, we talk about creativity, why there needs to be more diversity. Now, it's crazy that the NBA players make 50% of the revenue, but the WNBA players only make 9%. Now, explain how does that work, right? And quite frankly, people are upset that women want to be paid more, and that shit shouldn't fly. People shouldn't be upset. It's not going to hurt your pockets. The league is expanding. You're paying more money. Then owners are getting more money every time a new team comes. What's the problem with paying some of the players? We're at the point where women's sports is taking off to a new level, and that's why I'm glad CBA negotiations are happening because the women aren't going to be in the same place next year as far as money-wise. So they will get an increase, but they shouldn't have to go overseas to play ball. Especially you're getting more sponsors. Oh, you're getting more sponsors. You're getting, bigger ad. You can sell bigger and better ads. You're able to now make more money. You get charged more cents from the ad dollars because the ratings are going through the roof. So there's always an uncomfortable and, quite frankly, unhealthy conversation when it comes to women wanting more. But quite frankly, we just need to stop. Just stop and support. And at the end of the day, the people who are complaining don't even watch women's basketball. And it's quite frankly, it's just so simple, it's stupid. 9%, 10% isn't enough. Pay these women more money, give them a bigger piece of the pie.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to support this podcast by wearing a t-shirt, whether it's the one that says breaking through glass ceilings or the one that says no ceilings above success, simply go to foryourwear.com. Also, you can support some of your other favorite podcast and content creators, including Those Wrestling Girls, Seahawk, and the Wrestling Club. And you can support some of your favorite independent wrestlers, including Jay Bougie, Trisha Dora, Chaz the Dawn. Shoot, all of Pure Ignorance is on there. So go on foryourwear.com, go under personalities, you'll find Bryon H. Waters, and buy a t-shirt. And remember, I'll give you a shout out on the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, are you in the gym every week? Are you looking to kind of keep yourself cool while you work up a nasty sweat? Well, I got the best thing for you. Cooling bands, bandanas, cooling towels, and so much more. Go to Vertical Athletics, get your favorite team in MLS or MLB, or guess what? Now they have a custom option so you can upload your own logo and you can save 10% at checkout when you enter the code Bryon H. Waters. Go to vertical.com, use the code Bryon H. Waters to save 10% on some of your best cooling gear. Speaking of women's sports, folks, did y'all see Claressa Shields? She has challenged Lalia Ali. Now, she's been talking and talking. She wants Lalia Ali. She wants that big fight. Now, we know Lalia Ali is known as the greatest women's boxer of all time. Undefeated, never lost a fight at all, and she is a knockout machine. The last time, matter of fact, she's 24-0, 21 wins by knockout. Her last fight, though, she defeated Gwendolyn O'Neal by TKO in Johannesburg, South Africa, on guess what date? February 3rd, 2007. I don't want to see this fight. I don't want to see Lalia Ali fight. Now, Layla said if they talk 15 to 20 million, she'll entertain it. She'll talk. She'll think. She'll go to her team and see what they say. Well, Claressa Shields found 15 million. Do y'all really want to see this fight? Do y'all want to see Lalia Ali and Claressa Shields? Because, like I said, I don't. Let's just leave this as a fantasy. We never got Tyson and Ali. We don't need Shields and Ali. I'm sorry. I am sorry. We just don't. Is it because I'm scared she's going to lose? Maybe. We saw Mike Tyson and Jake Paul. And see, the difference was, when we got Tyson and Roy Jones, it was different because they were both up in age. When Tyson was in his prime, Jake Paul wasn't even born yet. So, and Lalia Ali haven't fought in over 18 years. And to fight a prime veteran, a champion who's getting ready for another fight this weekend? No, absolutely unnecessary. Let's just leave it on the video games. Before we get out of here, folks, some moves in the NBA. Damian Lillard gone back to the Portland TrailBlazers. Many would say he probably should have never left. But CP3, Chris Paul, enter his 21st season, and it may be his last. He is going to the team that you probably associate him most with, the Los Angeles Clippers. So he will play with James Harden and Kawhi Leonard. I expect them to be winners, not champions, but I expect them to be in the playoffs this year if everybody stays healthy, which Kawhi, that's, but this will be certainly interesting. A nice farewell. Give him his farewell tour. He deserves it. Who knows? Maybe him and LeBron will go out at the same time. You're going to have LeBron and CP3 in Los Angeles together. There was part of me was kind of hoping he came to the Lakers just so that him and LeBron could play together and LeBron could play with all his friends. But obviously it's not happening. And who knows? LeBron might end up in the Clippers for all we know. But, congratulations to CP3 on an incredible career. Early predictions, I do not, nor do I hope it ends up with a championship since he's gone there. I wanted him to win in Phoenix. He didn't get the job done, unfortunately. And they were up 2-0 in that series. That was the crazy part. They were up 2-0. But who knows? But, ladies and gentlemen, that will do it for this week's episode. Yep, I got it through everything. Sometimes I'll be missing things. Got through everything. That'll do it for this week's episode of Breaking Through Glass Ceilings. Make sure you stay tuned and subscribe to this channel. I appreciate everybody. I see the pod is growing. I see more people are tuning in. We got new listeners, returning viewers, and new viewers. So I appreciate each and every one of y'all. And I want y'all to know that. And remember, folks, do not let anyone place a ceiling above your success. So long, everyone.